My wife cheated and ended up in the hospital. Her family called me heartless for filing for divorce. Then my daughter pulled me aside and whispered, "Dad, the baby in her room isn't yours. And it isn't his either." By sunrise, I'd frozen every account, contacted a lawyer, and her affair partner's wife was blowing up my phone. The real chaos was just beginning. Hello, Reddit I plus here. The call came at 2:13 a.m. I remember the exact time because I had been lying awake for nearly an hour, staring into the darkness and wondering why my wife had become a stranger in our own home. When my phone lit up, I almost ignored it. Then I saw the caller ID, County Memorial Hospital. My stomach dropped. "Hello, is this Mr. Harrison Reed?" The voice was calm, professional. "Yes. Sir, your wife has been involved in a serious motor vehicle accident. She's stable, but we need you to come immediately." Everything after that became a blur. I threw on jeans, grabbed my keys, and hurried down the hall to wake my daughter. 14-year-old Ava sat up almost instantly when I entered. "Dad, your mom's in the hospital." For a moment, I expected panic. Instead, she simply nodded. Looking back, that should have been my first warning. The drive took 20 minutes. Ava barely spoke. She sat staring out the passenger window while I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. My wife, Nicole, and I had been married 16 years. We had built a life together, a house, a business, a daughter. The occasional argument, the usual struggles, nothing extraordinary. At least, that's what I thought. A doctor met us in the emergency department. "Mr. Reed," I nodded. "Your wife suffered several fractures and a concussion. She's going to recover." The relief nearly buckled my knees. "Can I see her?" The doctor hesitated. That hesitation changed everything. "Before you do, there's something you should know." I felt a cold sensation crawl up my spine. "What?" "Your wife wasn't alone in the vehicle." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "There was another adult male driving." The doctor glanced toward Ava, then back at me. "And there was a child." "A child?" He nodded. "A baby girl, approximately 9 months old." I stared at him. My brain simply refused to process the words. "Okay." The doctor shifted uncomfortably. "The child was listed as belonging to both occupants." I laughed. Not because anything was funny, because the alternative was impossible. "No, I'm sorry. That's not possible." The doctor's expression didn't change. "The documents recovered from the vehicle list your wife as the mother." The floor seemed to disappear beneath me. No. Nicole wasn't pregnant 9 months ago. She couldn't have been. I would have known, wouldn't I? Then memories started slamming into me. The 6-week training seminar in another state. The oversized sweaters. The sudden weight loss afterward. The unexplained medical appointments. The nights she'd claimed to be helping her elderly aunt. All those little things I'd ignored because trusting your spouse is supposed to mean something. I suddenly felt sick. "Who is the driver?" The doctor checked a chart. "Logan Pierce." The name meant nothing to me, but apparently he'd meant something to my wife. A lot. The doctor guided us toward Nicole's room. She was unconscious, bandages wrapped around her forehead. Her left arm was in a cast. Machines beeped steadily around her bed. For several seconds, I just stood there, looking at her, trying to reconcile the woman lying there with the person I thought I'd married. I couldn't, because they were clearly two different people. I turned to leave, and that's when Ava spoke. "Dad." Her voice was barely above a whisper. I looked at her. She looked terrified, not surprised, terrified. A very important difference. "Dad, we need to talk." I led her into a quiet family waiting room down the hall. The second the door closed, she started crying. Not loud, not dramatic. The kind of crying that comes from carrying something far too heavy for far too long. I sat beside her. "Ava." She wiped her eyes, then she looked directly at me and shattered what little remained of my world. "Dad, the baby isn't yours." My chest tightened. "What?" She swallowed hard. "The baby isn't Logan's either." For several seconds, neither of us spoke. I genuinely thought I might pass out. "What are you talking about?" Ava looked down at her hands. "Last year I saw Mom's emails." I felt my stomach twist. "What emails?" I wasn't snooping. Her voice cracked. "I was using her laptop for school. Her inbox was open." I stayed silent. She was talking to 2 different men. 2, not 1. 2. Logan was one of them. My pulse pounded in my ears. And the other? A man named Victor Kane. The room suddenly felt too small, too hot, too difficult to breathe in. "I didn't tell you because I was scared." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I thought maybe I was misunderstanding." "Sweetheart." "But then Mom disappeared for weeks." She looked up at me, and I overheard her arguing with Victor on the phone. I froze. "What did she say?" Ava's voice dropped to almost nothing. "She told him she didn't know whose baby it was." The words hit like a freight train. I felt physically ill. The affair wasn't one affair. The child wasn't necessarily the other man's. My wife had apparently been sleeping with multiple men at the same time, and none of them knew the whole truth. Ava took a shaky breath. "There's more." Of course there was. There was always more. "What?" I heard Mom talking to Grandma after the baby was born. My heart sank. What did she say? Ava looked directly into my eyes and delivered the sentence that changed everything. Grandma told her she couldn't keep lying forever. She paused, then whispered, Mom said she'd never tell any of you because she wasn't even sure who the father was. At that exact moment, shouting erupted somewhere down the hallway, a woman's voice, angry, furious, heartbroken. A nurse hurried past the waiting room, then another, then a security guard. I stepped into the hallway. A woman I'd never seen before was standing outside Nicole's room. Her mascara was smeared, her eyes were red, and she looked ready to burn the hospital down. When she saw me, she pointed toward Nicole's door. You're her husband, aren't you? I nodded slowly. The woman laughed bitterly. Then I guess we're both here for the same reason. My blood ran cold. You know Logan? I've been married to him for 12 years. She pulled out her phone. Then she showed me a photograph. Nicole, Logan, and a baby. Together, at a beach. Smiling like a family. The timestamp on the photo was 7 months old. While I was working overtime to pay our mortgage. While Ava thought her mother was caring for relatives. While I believed my marriage was struggling. My wife had been living an entirely different life. The other woman looked at me, then at Ava, then back at me. You should know something. What? She handed me a folded document. I found this in my husband's safe tonight. I unfolded it and immediately felt the blood drain from my face. It was a paternity test. But neither Logan nor I were listed as the potential father. Only one name appeared on the report, Victor Kane. And according to the results, Victor wasn't the father either. The baby belonged to someone else. Someone none of us knew. Someone Nicole had never mentioned. And suddenly, the accident wasn't the biggest disaster waiting in that hospital. It was the secrets that had survived it. I didn't sleep. By sunrise, I had a lawyer on the phone. By 8 a.m., every joint account Nicole had access to was frozen. By 9 a.m., divorce papers were being prepared. I wasn't acting out of revenge. I was acting out of survival. Because every hour revealed another lie. The woman married to Logan, whose name was Grace, sat with me in the hospital cafeteria. Between us were stacks of screenshots, bank records, and photos she had pulled from her husband's phone. Nicole and Logan hadn't just been having an affair. They had been planning a future together. There were messages about houses, vacations, even discussions about introducing their children to each other permanently. The problem was that neither of them had told the truth, not to each other, not to us, and apparently not even about the baby. Around noon, Nicole finally woke up. The first thing she asked was, "Where's Amelia?" Not me, not Ava, not her husband, the baby. That answered every remaining question I had about where her priorities were. When she finally saw me standing in the doorway, her face turned pale. "Harrison," I held up a hand. "No." Tears instantly filled her eyes. "I can explain." "No, you can't." Then I placed the paternity report on her hospital bed. For the first time since I'd entered the room, she looked genuinely terrified. Her eyes locked onto the paper. Then she started crying. Real crying. The kind that comes when a lie finally runs out of places to hide. "Who is he, Nicole?" She didn't answer. "Who is the father?" Still nothing. Then she whispered something so quietly, I almost didn't hear it. "I don't know." The room went silent. Even the monitor beside her bed seemed louder. "You don't know?" She shook her head. And suddenly, 16 years of marriage felt like it had happened to someone else. When I walked out, Ava was waiting in the hallway. She looked nervous. "Dad?" I knelt beside her. "It's over." She nodded slowly, then wrapped her arms around me. And for the first time since the phone call, I cried. Not for my marriage, not for Nicole, for my daughter. Because she had spent months carrying an adult secret that no child should ever have to carry. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. Nicole moved in with her mother. Logan's wife divorced him too. As for the baby, DNA testing eventually identified the biological father. A man neither family had ever heard of. A brief relationship Nicole had hidden from everyone. Even Logan. The strangest part? After all the lies, all the betrayal, and all the chaos, the person who showed the most courage was a 14-year-old girl. The night my world fell apart, Ava could have stayed silent. Instead, she told the truth. And because of that truth, I stopped living inside someone else's deception. Sometimes the person who saves you isn't the one you married. Sometimes it's the child who's brave enough to whisper the words nobody else wants to hear.